What's up, YouTube? George, a Silver Hunter back, and in today's video we will be coin roll hunting a $25 box full of bank-wrapped pennies. I'm kind of intrigued by this box because I've never seen one marked with a quadruple X, and this is from NF String & Sons through our local Wells Fargo, and which normally they have Loomis, and these have holes in the bottom, so I could tell we had circulated pennies without even having to get into the box at the bank, which is nice. Also, as part of this video, we will be working on our coin folders, mainly focusing on 1909 to 1974 because our 75 to 2013 book is complete. I'm sure there are some upgrades that could be had, but really the 41 through 74 has got still a number of holes to be filled, starting with 1955S and earlier. And in my earlier book, 1909 to 1940, there's only 4 or 5 pennies in there. So really, any old wheat pennies will be a welcome sight. So with that said, let's stop talking and get into these pennies. So even though I showed you the holes in the bottom that we have circulated rolls, let's go ahead and just open this box together in case we have some interesting enders, which we don't, at least not on first look. But you can see we've got new pennies, we've got old pennies, we've got some, looks like some copper pennies. That is going to make for a good hunt. If you are new to coin roll hunting, I do have a document in the description down below this video that has a full listing of all the pennies that we'll be looking for from a error and variety standpoint. It also lists out all your key dates and semi-key dates. And I've got a handy dandy little table in there that will allow you to weigh a roll of pennies and get an idea of just how many copper pennies are probably in that roll. So if you're looking for that kind of information, yeah, head on down below this video and grab that document. With that said, let me just go ahead and open one roll. I'm not going to go through the whole roll on camera, but let's just get it open in case it looks really interesting. And you know what? Let's weigh it too. Let's see here. 126 is what a roll of zinc pennies weigh. We're at 130, so we're going to have a good amount of copper pennies in this roll. A lot of times you can tell from the color. Copper is often really brown, but sometimes the zinc can get in there too. I'll just grab one just based on the color, and that is a 1982, which unfortunately we have to weigh because that 82 could be zinc. So 3.1 grams, we know we have a copper penny. Okay, well, I'm going to go off camera. Like I said, I'll go through these, and if I find any errors or varieties or wheat pennies, I'll be sure to bring you in. So we're into roll number 3, about halfway through, and we have our first wheat penny. I haven't looked at it yet, so let's see it together here. It's not in great shape. It is a 1946D, so our first 40s wheat penny for the board. So we are all the way up on roll 28. It has been a good long while since I brought you in. We are on our next find, which is a King George. I believe that means it's going to be Canadian. Looks old. I always forget the Canadians. You have to turn the other way. Wow, that's a 1948. That is a really old King George. And these guys are like 95 or 98 or 99% copper. So this is something I always hang on to, even though it doesn't have a lot of value here in the States, but I hang on to it for the copper. While I have you here, we have found a couple of the 2009s. They're not in great condition. So we've got the formative years, we've got an early childhood, and we have a Capitol Dome. Those were very low mintage years, and they did have 4 commemorative reverses on them. So most people do pull them and hang on to them when they're in good condition. I have a couple of coins that I've pulled because they're just in really good shape. We're going to make sure that they're not upgrades for the book. Our copper pile is doing okay. I know it's kind of zoomed in. We'll do a copper count or a copper weight at the end of the video. And while I had you in here, I figured we'd talk about this because I see this on Facebook a lot. I see this question a lot. And it's about the large date versus small date Lincoln cent. And in one roll, it was back on roll probably like 10 or 11. I actually got both of these in the same roll. So we're going to go over here under the scope and look at the difference between the 1982 large date and small date. And I know one's Denver and one's Philly, but you tell the same way if it's a large date versus small. The other thing you need to know is that 82, there is a zinc version of the penny and a copper. Both of these are copper and they weigh out at 3.1 grams. The zinc versions of these would be 2.5 grams. So let's get over here under the scope and have a look. So we're going to go ahead and start with the large date version. And I've been coin roll hunting pennies for about 2.5 years. And in my opinion, this is the one that I see by far the most. I think the small date is harder to find. And you can find both varieties in the zinc and the copper. But the way I tell right here is by the 2. You can see that we come down and kind of have a little bit of a rounded edge here on the 2. And it's a little rounded here. It's not real pronounced, and the base of the 2 is real thick all the way across the bottom. And it's pretty easy to see when they're side by side, but let me show you the small date first for comparison. So you can see here we come down to a nice sharp edge. This comes to a nice sharp edge, and then we have a little bit of an upward flare here on the bottom of the 2. So this is the small date. See if I can get the large date up here on the same screen so you can compare them, but there they are. This is the large date, this is the small date, and again, it's just if they're big and rounded down here on the base versus coming to a sharp point, that's the easiest way to tell them apart. Same roll as our King George. This one came up obverse facing. I already picked it up and looked at it, and it's in really bad shape, but we have a 1958D, our first, or not first, but last year of the wheat penny. Not a great one, but we'll keep it. Very next roll, we have our next wheat penny, this time reverse facing. This one actually looks to be in pretty good condition. It's another 1950, 2 for the board. Well, we have reached the end of the box, and while it wasn't the most productive box of pennies I've ever done, we did get a couple of goodies to look at. I did take you guys through the identification of the 82 large date and small date, and I just wanted to show this to you that I was actually able to find a copper large date and small date and a zinc large date and small date in this one box. And I know a lot of people have a hard time finding, you know, the small date variety, so I was kind of a little surprised that I found all 4 in one box. We did end up with 4 Wheaties. We had a 1946D, a 1950, a 1950D, and I forget what this one was. Let's see here. It was a 1958D in kind of cruddy condition. Outside of that, I did think that this King George, this 1946 King George, I think it was a 1946. Oh, it was 1948. 48 King George was pretty darn cool. And then we did find a couple of the commemorative Lincoln cents here with the formative years, the Capitol Dome, and the early childhood. We did find 2 book filler or book replacements, this 1994 and this 1983. Unfortunately, that means we can kind of toss aside this 1909 book. I'm not going to show you guys, but I'll pop in those new coins here in the 75 and 2013 book. Again, you can see that this book is like pretty much completely filled. What I am excited about, though, is in the 41 to 74 book, if we come over here, for so few wheat penny finds, you will see that I do need the 1950 and, where is it, the 1946D. So that's exciting that out of 4 wheat pennies, I was able to fill 2 spots in my book. Outside of that, we have a lot of copper to speak of. I'll pop those pennies in off camera, but I just wanted you to see that that's where they're going to go. We did really well on copper. You can see we've got this thing zeroed out. Here's our cup of copper, and we'll throw that on the scale. We ended up with 2.2 pounds of copper in this one box. I've already run this through coin apps. I'll put an image up here on the screen, but this works out to about $7.12 or 13 cents worth of copper, and that's about $3.21, 2, 3, somewhere in there, actual cents worth of pennies, so $3.21. So it's a little over 6 rolls, almost 6.5 rolls. So not a bad haul out of 25 rolls, or I'm sorry, out of 50 rolls of pennies. So anyway, that was this penny box. I wish we had found a little bit more, but you know, I got to show you what the boxes produce, and this was about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something about the 82s if you didn't know before. Hunting pennies is a lot of fun, and it's only a $25 activity. And it does take, you know, typically if you're hunting for varieties and errors, it can take a couple hours to go through a box. So it's a great rainy day, rainy weekend kind of activity. So if you're new to the channel and you like coin roll hunts, please consider dropping down below and clicking on that subscribe button, clicking on that little bell and selecting all so you get notified each and every time I release a new video. While you're down there, go ahead and hit that like button, leave me a comment, let me know how you're doing. I do have a couple of more videos coming out. I've been waiting on some additional boxes because I've hunted a few $half boxes and they've been less than stellar. So I've got a few more on order and we'll tack those on and try to get that out this weekend. So with that said, you guys take care and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.